The factory says, do as you're told. The linchpin says, how can I make this better? Choose to make things better. What's up, champions? Welcome to another episode of Champion Reads, where we talk about the best-selling books and their best principles to help you with your best life. I'm your host, William Blake. Today, we're also joined by the founder of Champion Circle, Mr. John Kovacs Jr. himself. And I'm very grateful for today. Funny enough, we had Thanksgiving yesterday, so very grateful for today and yesterday, Go Food, that we have this time to be able to finish the book that we've been talking about during this month of November, which is The Linchpin by Seth Godin. And I'm very, very excited for today because we talked about the practical applications of things. We talked about how to be a linchpin. We talked about the different areas of being creative and graphics and art. Today, we're going to talk about something that is not profoundly said in the book, but very, very important because it's the difference between the factory mindset and the linchpin mindset. Seth Godin goes into talking about the core idea where we have the society who has trained us over the last century and maybe even more about the industrial system. I don't even know if it's been a century, probably less. The industrial system and how we need to do as we're told. And that's how you get the paycheck. That's how you get your work done. That's just how you survive in this world today. But he says no. Instead, we need to come down and figure out how to do it the linchpin way. Talk about how can we get this done? What can we create with it? So super excited to talk about it. John, I'm actually just going to throw a curveball your way. I would love for you to start off with your thoughts that you have.
I love this topic and the question of, how has that mindset shaped the way we approach work? I think about this all the time, and you and I we share a favorite book in Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil. And there's this group of people, the 98% per se, and that is the herd mentality, or what Napoleon Hill calls the drifters. And so I am in a constant striving in my life to remain free from drifting and to be conscious of that. And that whole process is very awakening and illuminating of actions, thoughts, and where you are in life. But this constant question that's on the front of the book of, are you indispensable? And that's such a great question to ask always, because again, in many normal business formats, it is customary and it is regular and it is cultural to go with the flow, to be part of the herd, to let things happen as they will. And yet it's that linchpin or that indispensable feeling and thought that will allow you to step outside that groove. I think of a river, of flow, right? I like thinking of energy flowing downstream, but yet every year, the famous Alaskan salmon swim upstream. And it's like, why do they do that? Of all the species in the world, why do they swim upstream? And it has a lot to do with their legacy, their dispensation, their lineage, right? They're finding warm pockets along the river banks to nest and to place their eggs and to place down you know, a firm hold on their future. And it's amazing to me that that's part of the process, because if you continually move with the conveyor belt of regular business and work, you'll get the same results. But if you're truly seeking to live outside of the same results, then you've got to be a little bit more open-minded to what else. And I like the quote you shared, that has a lot to do with focusing on how you can solve problems, or what can you do to make it bigger and better. So many people are just satisfied with where they're at, but that unsatisfaction, the dissatisfaction, there you go, there's a real word versus the word I just made up. That dissatisfaction is truly what can drive you and drive organizations to greater heights, and that makes you completely indispensable. Initial thoughts for sure, but I love this, because again, you got to go against the grain, you got to go against the mold, and that's what's going to set you apart. It's hard to stand out when you're in the crowd. One last story I'll share, and I'll be brief, is that one of my favorite stories that Les Brown, one of my favorite motivational speakers, shares is, when he was sitting in the audience, first uninspired by this speaker that was speaking to them. He said, "You want to know what the difference between you and I are?" And, he said, "The difference between you and I is that I'm up here and you're sitting there." And in a very professional way, what the speaker was saying was, I am the result of the actions that I took based on my yearnings, my thoughts, and my desires. And you're sitting where you're sitting because you have yet to take action. And that was just a big reminder that, if you're coasting, if you're floating, if you're just existing, your life is beautiful. You're amongst good company. You're amongst 98% of the world. But when you go against the mold and you really fight upstream, then you start to find a lot more purpose and value and fulfillment in what you truly desire. And that's something that's so just awesome and beautiful.
It's funny how in a society today where everyone is trying to go against the grain and go against the the flow of everything, how they still aren't, right? It's like, I want to be different. My parents, forget my parents. I am the rebellious one. I'm the one that goes against the grain. And it's because of the way that they are taking action that they're still going with what is happening, right? It reminds me of, because it breaks up into two parts. You got the education and the work system when it comes to this factory mindset. With the education side, when school started, it was to prepare kids and workers to be able to then work in the factory industry. And it's interesting, over the, I think 150 years, so it has been more than a century. Over the last 150 years, cars have become different. Houses have become different. Schools haven't really become different. They're still in that organized setting. It's the do as you're told mentality, which then leads to the work side of it, of you do as you're told, you get your paycheck, and everything works out great. And so it's really interesting how, even when as kids, it's the flow of going into the factory setting. And if we even put it into just common day examples, fast food. Fast food, they have the chart in front of them. You do buns, meat, cheese, pickles, ketchup, right? They have it all in this system. Wrap it up, put it on the thing for it to go. What do you do next? You go back, do all the ingredients again, wrap it up, put it to go. Same as, I know when I worked at Walmart, like, there wasn't too much mentality you had to put into getting stuff done. There wasn't much creativity. It was simply scan the item, take it to the floor, restock the shelf, bring extras back, right? And it was just that consistent thing of every single day. It's just the factory mindset of doing things over and over and over again. And so it's just really interesting that there are jobs out there that you can't really be creative in. You can't be creative when it comes to a McDonald's order because people get mad at you. You can't be creative when it comes to working at Walmart because they want things set a certain way. But what about those jobs that are creative? And I'll even throw it to you, John. What, in your mind, what are some of those jobs that are linchpin friendly rather than factory worker friendly?
Well, the factory worker mindset is an interesting perspective to, like, to imagine during this conversation because, being different is good, but being different goes against what people want and are what is normal. And so it's tough to, like, stand out in a world where people don't want you to stand out. They want you to file suit, fill in, get in line, do the thing, right? And and so it's hard. You walk a balance of, like, I want to be indispensable, I want to be a linchpin, but I don't want to rub people the wrong way, or I don't want to cause friction or whatever it might be. So it's fascinating, but clearly, when you work on your own, when you're a entrepreneur or a business owner, or you start your own hustle and side project, you don't have that. You're an entrepreneur and you are siloed. You don't have the team, probably because you don't have the funding to pay for a team and so forth. So it's really, really kind of an interesting experience. But when it comes to answer your question, what are some of the jobs out there, right? What are some of the positions or environments and roles that people can take on where they can not be in the factory mindset? And I'm actually going to throw the answer a curveball, and I'm going to say every position in existence, because again, it's not necessarily what is required in the role, but it's how you do it. Because I, have you ever asked yourself the question, like if I was in that person's shoes, would I do something differently than they're doing it now? And so many people can relate to that because we all have our own opinions on how things should be done versus, just the bar minimum, or the bare bones of what's required of them, right? Some people like to ride the bare minimum, and others like to go above and beyond. And wherever you fall in that spectrum is exactly where your mindset is according to factory mindset. You might as well accept the idea that you just want to show up, you just want to get the job and work done, and then you want to leave and collect your paycheck at the end of the day. There's those people who are on a mission, and they're either learning or yearning, right? And the learners and the yearners, all they care about is improvement and satisfaction and so much more. So I think I could ramble more on this, but I really just want to just paint the picture that it could be done by anyone in any scenario. It is your own attitude and perspective. However, there are specific jobs and positions that do enable the non-factory mindset, and being an entrepreneur is one of them. Starting your own business or side hustle is another one. Artists are completely off the factory mindset. People who have a creative bug in them, right? And designers, there's a way to do things, but the creative mold is what's important. For example, Willie, the other day you and I spent several hours developing our website, and each question of each square cube of space on that website mattered, and we took conscious, deliberate effort into making sure that everything was important. And that's a space of caring, a space of understanding, and a space of realizing that, hey, details matter. So if you're in a role where details matter, then that mindlessness of the factory mindset doesn't exist. When you take consideration to what every little detail must perform or bring to fruition. So I think that kind of describes a very select group of jobs. I'm not talking about the person behind the counter at Subway taking your order based on the ingredients shown in front of you. I'm talking about the person who can sit there, listen with a notepad, and then take what they hear and transform it into something that exists. And that's something that really is defining. So there's a few short examples.
Sitting here listening to you talk, I caught myself in a limited mindset. I was thinking of actors, entrepreneurs, business owners, artists, that creative side. Those are the linchpins. The ones who aren't the linchpins, oh, they're the ones working in restaurants, at retail. No, that's not the case. You blew it. You broke that limitation, because you can be a linchpin anywhere you are. And the example that came up, my wife and I went on our, I don't think it was a honeymoon, I think it was one of our anniversaries. We went to a different state, just goodness gracious, I can't even remember where we were. But while we were there, we visited Olive Garden. Oh, it was while we were in New York. There we go. We visited an Olive Garden. And this waiter, I'll tell you, this waiter was a linchpin. Because even though all you do is take your order, get the people water, bring the check. This waiter, he came up so enthusiastic about everything. He's like, what do you want? Water? Do you want Coke? Do you want Pepsi? I don't think you can have both of those in the restaurant, but one or the other. And we're just like, oh, we'd love water with lemon. He's like, got it. He came back, no joke, within like 30 seconds. Came back. He's like, are you ready to order? We're like, yeah, we'll have boom, 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 and boom. It's like, awesome. He leaves. If any of you have been to a restaurant and sat there, it takes like 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes, probably on the 20-minute side, or longer before you get your food. This was the fastest time I've ever had when I went to Olive Garden and got my food within like 6 or 7 minutes. It was so fast and it was so warm. It was delicious. We're like, wow, this is the best service that we've ever had. He had a smile on his face. This guy had to be like 50s, high 50s, low 60s in age. And he was outrunning the freaking millennials or Gen Z or Gen Zers that were there. It was just crazy how he did. And we tipped him because of it. It was such great service. We were in and out within like 30-ish minutes, which is crazy when it comes to Olive Garden. So I'm like, that's a linchpin. That guy was enthusiastic. He went above and beyond service-wise for us. And that's really what it is. Because even though he was in the position to where most people would hear from their manager, do as you're told, and they would just do as they're told, he went beyond that. He did as he told, but then he was just like, how do I make this better for the customer? How do I make this better for the people who come here? And that's really what it comes down to. It's not the job that defines if you're a linchpin or not. It's that mindset of, do I just do as I'm told, or do I do that and add more onto it?
Yeah, if you think about it, a linchpin in a corporate or normal business function is somebody who is indispensable amongst other dispensables. Okay. But if you are indispensable by yourself, meaning you run your own business or you're a solo artist or whatever it might be, you are then a linchpin / indispensable for that product, service, offering. And I'll tell you, it's a lot harder to be that, because you've got to outweigh and outbeat the other organizations, corporations, and resources out there that have teams, employees, people behind them, and a success rate that fuels that through income, right? So when you're on your own, you're taking the greatest risk of all. But at the same time too, is like, look, you can be indispensable anywhere. It just depends on your attitude and your choice. Do I want to be indispensable amongst a team? by the way, indispensable amongst a team. Let's just name a few: Michael Jordan, Michael Phelps, another Michael. I couldn't think of a third one off the top of my head. But the
Michael
importance.
D'Angelo or something.
Michelangelo, one of the Ninja Turtles. You're right.
Yeah.
Anyways, indispensable amongst a team. Uncomparable to indispensable as a product or service. Now, you've got to be a really great marketer, a really great salesperson, a really great fulfillment director to be able to assist on all that. And you should be. But becoming a linchpin in one area can translate and give you confidence in the other as well. They're not two completely separate realms. What I'm really trying to communicate here is anyone can be a linchpin, and it doesn't matter. It could be, and this sounds silly because you can't fire family members, but a linchpin in your family. For example, the other day was just Thanksgiving dinner, and a lot of working hands go into creating Thanksgiving dinners, right? And so in order to be indispensable is the person who can not just bring something that was needed, but something that people looked forward to because you brought it, that you made it something that was part of the experience. And that's going back to your story, Willie. That server made your day, and that day was, you plan on going out to eat, and you don't think about, is my server going to be great? But your server is great, and all of a sudden that experience is enhanced tenfold, and you realize, wow, what a memory, what an opportunity. And now everything associated with that business, service, food, feeling, experiences, memories, and all of that is much more positive. And that's the indispensable power. It is so outward. It is a ripple effect in acceleration and also magnification. It truly can make a person's life different, on the outside as well as on the inside, from an internal intrinsic perspective as well. So it's a pretty powerful tool.
It absolutely is. And the question comes to my mind, what are we following that is the invisible rules? Right? It's not like the factory mindset versus the linchpin, that there's actual rules that break you past it. But it's the linchpin breaks through and is creative with the invisible rules that we have. So a good question for the champion listeners who are listening and watching is, like, what is one invisible rule that you're following without even thinking about it?
Yeah.
Like, an invisible rule that comes to my mind is when I was, again, working back at Walmart in the produce section. One of the invisible rules is that if something is bad, you hide it away. Unfortunately, with the Walmart I was working at, you put the fresh produce on top, and the ones that aren't that good is on the bottom. And that's the way that it was for a little bit until we got some management changes. But for someone who is integrable, I hated doing that. But at the time, I was following it. I said, okay, I just put the fresh produce on top. Then when we had to switch in management, it wasn't declared instantly that that's what had to happen, but I jumped right into it. I'm just like clearing out all the old stuff, putting the new stuff in, and if it was still good, putting the old stuff on top so that we can first in, first out method that we do. And so it's like the invisible rules that aren't written down, but are kind of like the unheard of, the ones that we don't talk about. Those are the ones that stop us the most. So a good question for any champion who wants to be a linchpin is to ask, what's that one rule from the factory mindset that you followed without questioning? It's a real thing to reflect upon.
What a great journaling question, because yeah, it's very introspective. You need to look inward to see, and sometimes taking a step back and seeing it from a bird's eye view, from an outer body experience, through your mind and consciousness, can help you see the big picture. I love the examples that you're sharing, and you know, there's a Walmart in all of us. there's a organization, a method, a strategy, a tactic, a technique in all of us that we've experienced that we did because that was what we were told, but the flow can contradict our values. And it's really great that leadership stepped up and created that for your team and your group. And honestly, it's refreshing to hear that. And the word refreshing has such meaning when it comes to produce, because it's like, yes, like you want the freshest, you want to refresh the freshest. And if you just take that example and apply it to your life, like what's something that's just sitting on your desk? Like I always tell the story about my pen, that when I was sitting in the corporate office space of this amazing company that was giving me benefits, a salary, and and investments. I dropped my pen, and my pen went under my desk. And as I was reaching for my pen, I could feel my breath express some inner thoughts, and those inner thoughts came out as, I wish I could hide under my desk all day. And that feeling left me shocked, saying, I'm a happy person. Why is this coming out? And I addressed it right then and there. And I came to the conclusion that I was happy, but I wasn't the happiest. And that was enough for me to say, okay, what's next? I put in my resignation. I looked forward to the next, because I found that I did not want to be complacent. I loved my job. I loved the people I worked with, but that wasn't enough to keep me from what I really, truly wanted to do. And I needed to take massive, important action in my life to do that. And so I, I always talk about that story with high regards to the people I worked with and to the company I cared about, because sometimes you might have a negative experience. You might be saying to yourself, I hate my job, or I hate the people around me. And if that's you, look, I changed my environment because I knew it could get better. Imagine what you could do if you just needed to change it and put it into a good place. That's so important for so many people. So be the linchpin of your own life, the manager of your systems, the captain of your ship. We could go further into that analogy, but I just think that you truly are at the driver's helm. And the more you allow autopilot to take over, the more autopilot gives you autopilot results. So do you want autopilot results? Do you just want to get to your destination, or do you want to see the scenery? Do you want to experience the path? Do you want to have incredible lessons along the journey? And that's what you need to decide for yourself. And so, like the book says on the front cover, are you indispensable? And do you want to be? We're not going to force a philosophy down your throat if you don't care. That's up to you. And I don't care if you don't care. But caringly, I care that you matter, that you have fulfillment, that you have joy, that you have things in your life that really fuel you. That's so important to me. And if a job is a job and everything else around that job is the things that truly fulfill you, then be indispensable in those environments. It doesn't just have to be work.
Yeah. And making it uniquely yours. It's so important.
Yeah.
Because if it's not yours, then it's everybody's. Anybody can do it. That's not being indispensable. If only you can do the job, that's indispensable. If someone else can come in and do it as well as you or better than you might need to reflect on what's going on, right?
Yeah.
As we're closing up, I want to leave some practical tips for individuals who are wanting to be a linchpin. Some things that have helped me to try to be a linchpin in the things that I do, as well as things that have worked with some of the people that I have worked with who have just been absolute stellar individuals. 3 things come to my mind. The first is taking initiative in small ways. Doesn't have to be big, just a small little ways, like propose a new idea, solve a problem no one else is tackling, put your own unique spin on it, like some small way to be able to make it yours, right? Small way to take initiative. Another one is to focus on developing, what's the word I'm looking for? Emotional intelligence.
There you go.
And connecting with other people on a different level. As we get into the industries of computer tech and industrial workers, we start getting this robot technology. We get industrial AI that's starting to come up to where jobs are being replaced. jobs that have to deal with humans, those aren't going to be replaced because humans are humans. Robots, no matter how techy it gets and how advanced they get, cannot connect on the same level as a human being. So building up emotional intelligence and connecting with other people on a different level, on a deeper level and a different level, can make all the difference in the world. And then the last one, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Reframe your work as art. So a good question would be like, how can you make your daily tasks more meaningful and creative? Like the example I gave with the dude at Olive Garden, he was serving people like everyone else, but I'm sure he had in his mind, I'm going to be the fastest individual here. I'm going to be the hardest individual here. And I'm going to be putting a smile on my face to make sure that my customers, do they call it customers in restaurant service? Whoever I'm
Yeah.
serving
Yeah.
gets gets the best service that they get. And being firsthand in that, absolutely different than any other service that I had. So those are a few practical tips for you who are wanting to be a linchpin as I wrap my thoughts up.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't have said it better. Like, really, it's really important. And recognizing that in yourself is important. And, linchpins make businesses more valuable. If you think about it, like, I know a lot of people who are reluctant to share ideas because they don't know if it'll add value. But when you share ideas to other people based on experience, based on results, based on, thoughts and inspirations, you truly add value. And that permeates through the actions, the beliefs, and the output of most environments, businesses, and corporations. And so if a business is doing well out in the world, a lot of times it's easy for us to look at the CEO or look at the figureheads at the realm, uh, at the helm of that leadership. But at the same time, you've got to know that good leaders hire people who are smarter than them, better than them, more technical than them. They put together the right people and team, and that's what it's really truly all about. So being indispensable isn't just being part of a factory of mindsets, but it's being amongst a crowd and enhancing the environment around you. And that's a beautiful accomplishment. So it's okay if you work in an environment where you're an employee and you're surrounded by other people. It's okay to be in the herd. It just depends on what you do and choose to do with that opportunity. With great opportunity comes responsibility. I know that's not the line, and I meant it that way, because many people mistakenly focus on the opposite, which is with great responsibility, or with great power comes great responsibility, right? That's the Spider-Man quote. Well, I think it's Spider-Man. I think there's a much more philosophical derivative of that actual quote, but I'm going with Spider-Man because it's cooler. But anyways, with great power comes great responsibility. Well, with great opportunity comes responsibility, and it's waiting for you to take it, because if you don't, someone else will, and then they'll be indispensable and you won't. So take advantage of it.
Take advantage of it. Thank you, champions, for being here. And that's been another episode of Champion Reads as we wrap up the book, The Linchpin by Seth Godin. If you guys have found inspiration in this episode, go ahead and subscribe to our podcast. You can find us on all the major podcasting platforms, as well as go to our website, mychampionscircle.com, where you'll find the link to the podcast, a link to all of our socials, as well as everything else going in the Champion Circle universe. Until next time, champions, continue to be awesome, continue to stand out and be the linchpin in your life. And always remember that it's up to you. You're going to make the decision. Make the decision to choose better. We'll see you on the next episode of Champion Reads.